Most mainline Pokemon games let you get Eevee, one of the most beloved Pokemon in history. But have you ever gotten one and then been unsure which Eeveelution to turn it into? In this video, I'll cover what I believe is the best Eeveelution to use in each mainline Pokemon game where you can get Eevee before the Pokemon League. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow give you one gift Eevee in Celadon City, obtained at level 25. And thanks to stones in the nearby department store, you can instantly evolve it into Flareon, Jolteon, or Vaporeon. But which one is best? Well, it's not Flareon. While Erica's Grass Gym is immediate, you have to raise Flareon to level 31 to only get Ember in Red and Blue, but then in Yellow it's level 36 for Fire Spin, both of which kinda stink. There is no TM for Flamethrower in Gen 1, and Flareon doesn't get it by level up until the 50s, so it'll be a pain to make it helpful for the Erica battle, but then after that, there's like nothing else that's weak to fire. There's no bug specialist, no steel type at all, and the ice types are mostly water type too. Another problem with Flareon is that its best stat is physical attack, but prior to Gen 4, all fire moves are special. In Gen 1, its special stat was 110, same as the other two Eeveelutions, and not bad, but not getting stabbed with its best attacking stat is rough. And it's gonna get worse in Gen 2 when the special stat splits. So sadly, because of this, Flareon's gonna struggle for a little bit, which is a bummer, because I like Flareon. As for Jolteon and Vaporeon, they're pretty close. Jolteon's level up moveset is poor, but by this point in the game, you already have the Thunderbolt TM from Lieutenant Surge. Additionally, Jolteon gets Pin Missile, one of the extremely few bug moves in the game, which could provide some help against the overpowered psychic types. However, there's one big bummer for Jolteon. You already beat Misty. Electric is only strong against water and flying, and since you missed water and there's no flying gym, that means Jolteon isn't much help in any major battles until the Pokemon League, in which it's great. 4 of Lorelei's Pokemon, 1 of Agatha's, 2 of Lance's, and up to 3 of your rivals, depending on your game and starter choice. Jolteon isn't stellar immediately, but it's a good investment in your future. Might as well nickname it Compounding Interest. That's silly, it's much longer than the character limit. However, Vaporeon is also quite good. You can teach it Water Gun or Bubble Beam immediately from TMs you should already have, or with some patience, you can wait and teach it Surf, the best water move in the game, and still before the gym battles it excels against, Blaine and Giovanni. It's not as good as Jolteon in the league though, only having type advantage over Bruno's weak Onyxes, Lance's Aerodactyl, and your rival's ground and fire types, 2 Pokemon he has regardless of game or starter. However, Vaporeon gets something that most Eeveelutions struggle with: coverage. And for Vaporeon, it's the very useful Ice type. In Yellow, it learns Aurora Beam at level 36, but in all the games, you can use the Ice Beam TM from the Celadon department store roof. This coverage helps a lot with Lance. Dragon types are effectively only weak to Ice in Gen 1 since the only dragon attack was Dragon Rage that did a set amount of damage, and of course Fairy did not exist. Vaporeon gives you an option for super effective moves against the toughest Elite Four member. In short, both Jolteon and Vaporeon can be really helpful Pokemon if you're willing to use TMs, which you should be. What else are you gonna use them for? But as for which is better, I'm giving a slight edge to Jolteon because of critical hits. In Gen 1 only, a Pokemon's chance to land a critical hit is based on its base speed, and Jolteon is tied for the 2nd fastest Pokemon in the game. That means Jolteon's crit chance every time it attacks is about 25%, around double Vaporeon's. For context, in all the games after Gen 1, the base crit chance ranges from only 4 to 6%. It's set up perfectly to just outspeed and crit blast things to death. Another bonus of Jolteon is that it makes sense even if you pick Squirtle. For most games, I won't take into account starter choice at all, but when 2 are really close, I'll allow it to help break a close tie. We now move on to Gold, Silver, and Crystal, where Bill gifts you a level 20 Eevee in Goldenrod City after meeting him in Ecruteak, meaning you can have Eevee before the 4th gym battle. There's also 2 new Eeveelutions, Psychic type Espeon and Dark type Umbreon. An exciting new era where everything is actually garbage. First off, Espeon and Umbreon are friendship evolutions, which have always been annoying, but they're even more annoying in Gen 2 with no Soothe Bell. Plus, if you level up too far, you can miss out on moves you can't get back because there's no move reminder either. But it's actually the original trio that are in dire straits. In Gold and Silver, the only way you can get a Water, Fire, and Thunderstone is from Bill's grandpa in the Sea Cottage, which is in Kanto! It is impossible to use Vaporeon, Flareon, or Jolteon on a pre-league team without trading, which is unhinged. Like, why would you lock regional dex Pokemon to after the league? Also, side note, those evolution stones are the only ones in the whole game. How the heck did they expect you to complete the Pokedex? Crystal version did fix this problem, but not in a fun way. There are some trainers on the routes just outside Ecruteak, specifically Lass Dana, Schoolboy Allen, and Fisherman Tully, who can call you to offer the evolution stones needed. While this is early and repeatable, it's still super annoying. So we'll have to segment things between Gold and Silver versus Crystal. For Gold and Silver, Espeon and Umbreon are your only two options, since I'm not allowing the other three if you can't get them until post-game. Espeon gets Psybeam at level 36, and Umbreon gets Feint Attack at the same time. So even if you evolve them earlier, they're not really gonna be much use until then. This does unfortunately mean that neither can help with Morty, and Espeon can't help with Chuck. They could help with Team Rocket though, and if it works out that way with Johto's weird level curves, Espeon is excellent due to all the poison types they use. Neither care much about the last few gyms, but once you hit the league, Espeon pulls ahead. Umbreon walls Will, but that's really it. Meanwhile, Espeon crushes Koga first, because while he has bug types, none have bug moves. Then it easily beats Bruno, and while Karen's dark types are scary, she still has 2 poison types. Espeon also just gets better moves. Espeon's best attack is Psychic, which is 90 power, while Umbreon's is Feint Attack, only 60 power. With the weaker move and poor offenses, Umbreon will struggle to one-shot anything. And I don't know about you, but that would annoy me. But what about Crystal? Let's say you opt to deal with the annoying phone call stone acquisition and you can have any of the Eeveelutions around the time of the 4th gym. Are any of them gonna be better than Espeon? Jolteon gets weirdly super nerfed because there is no Thunderbolt TM, so we can only learn it from an expensive move tutor in the game corner post-game. I don't know, man, there's some weird decisions in these games. Since the Eevee is level 20, that means you miss Thundershock. So unless you want to pay 5,500 coins in the game corner for the Thunder TM, Jolteon goes without an electric move until level 52.
Let's go gambling!
It's outrageous and sadly disqualifying. Flareon also struggles in the move department, getting only Fire Spin at level 36, then Flamethrower at level 52. Its offense is also worse now, with its 110 special being split into 110 special defense and 95 special attack. Vaporeon turns out fine though. Since you get the Surf HM in Ecruteak, it immediately gets the best water move in the game, then it gets Aurora Beam at level 36, which is nice since there is no Ice Beam TM. With these 2 moves, Vaporeon beats Jasmine's Steelix, Price's Piloswine, Claire's 3 Dragonairs, Koga's Crobat, Bruno's Onix, Karen's Houndoom, and every one of Lance's Pokemon except Gyarados. This absolutely makes it better than Espeon in my opinion. Feraligatr gaining Ice Fang in Gen 4 was a huge buff for it, since it makes it so much better against the 2 different dragon specialists. Vaporeon has that ice coverage in Gen 2 without needing a TM, and is helpful across so many battles. Plus, again, thanks to the Surf HM, Vaporeon is set with its best move immediately, whereas Espeon's gonna require more patience. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald do not have Eevee in them, although are necessary to get Espeon and Umbreon because they have a day and night cycle, whereas Fire Red and Leaf Green don't. And this was just implemented in such a way so that you could not get Umbreon and Espeon before the league in Fire Red and Leaf Green, which I think is stupid. So we skip over Hoenn and move to Fire Red and Leaf Green, where the choice is again the original trio of Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon, since as mentioned, the Umbreon-Espeon evolution is impossible. Eevee is found in the same place as Gen 1, a gift in Celadon City, and the evolution stones can still be purchased nearby. Most everything is the same as in Gen 1, so Flareon is still struggling with move options, and Fire's just not that good in Kanto. However, there is one significant change, and that is that instead of Thunderbolt, Lieutenant Surge gives out Shockwave. The Thunderbolt TM is instead in the game corner for 4,000 coins, and since 500 coins cost $10,000 each, it'll cost you $80,000 to afford the single-use Thunderbolt. This means for Jolteon to have an electric attack, you either have to shell out a ton of money or use Shockwave, which is significantly weaker than Thunderbolt. Jolteon's Pin Missile is also less important due to the introduction of dark moves like Bite and Crunch, plus it no longer has the enhanced critical hit chance. In short, Jolteon ended up being kinda nerfed, whereas Vaporeon has remained about the same. This means Vaporeon takes the lead over Jolteon in Gen 3 because it is much less annoying to make good. Jolteon's main usefulness is in the league, and by that time, I don't know man, just catch Zapdos. Now we move to Gen 4, first Diamond and Pearl, which are stupid! Leafeon and Glaceon were introduced, exciting new evolutions, but Eevee cannot be obtained without the National Pokedex. Gonna rant for a little bit here, making all these cool new evolutions like Gliscor and Leafeon and Magmortar and stuff not available until after you get the National Dex was one of the dumbest game design decisions in Pokemon history. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? One of the big reasons Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl are so bad is because they kept the same freaking dex. There's 2 fire types when you could have just had Magmortar available. It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, they had more Pokemon in the underground, but still I couldn't get Gliscor before the league. Okay, now that my rant is over, I have to acknowledge that it is technically possible to get the National Dex before the Pokemon League in Diamond and Pearl, because it's based on whether or not you've seen the Pokemon, not owning them. And so it is doable, but you're not gonna want to. Without trading over a bunch of Pokemon, you'll have to basically complete everything except the league, then evolve to obtain the Pokemon you can only see in the league. And then the Eevee you get's only gonna be level 5 if you get the gift one from Beeb, or in the teens if you get the 5% daily Trophy Garden Pokemon. It should not be done. Do not use Eevee in Diamond and Pearl. The cost is too great. But since it's technically possible, I have to tell you which one's best. Looking at only their stab moves, Flareon, Leafeon, and Glaceon have the most positive matchups against League Pokemon, but they each have a flaw. Flareon and Leafeon are physical attackers, but their best stab moves at League level are only Fire Fang and Razor Leaf. Glaceon can have Ice Beam, but it's slow and not really bulky, which means against brick-breaking Garchomp, it's not as good as it would appear. Vaporeon comes in slightly behind those 3 with 6 League Pokemon weak to water. However, as discussed, Vaporeon's ice coverage is huge for it. If you include that, its usefulness expands to 11 Pokemon. Vaporeon is also better against Cynthia's Garchomp, in my opinion, since it isn't weak to any of Garchomp's moves, and since Garchomp's weakness is 4 times, you can likely still one-shot it with an ice move, even without stab. Ice offense is great, ice defense tends to be a liability, which is why, unfortunately, in most cases, Vaporeon's gonna be better than Glaceon. This means the best evolution in Diamond and Pearl is Vaporeon, but again, this is just in the insane scenario of getting the Eevee before the league. Let's move to Platinum, the best version of Sinnoh. Okay, well, I mean, if you count Legends Arceus as Sinnoh, which it is, but it's called something different. I actually don't know whether I prefer Platinum or Legends Arceus. They're both very good. And in Platinum, everything is more reasonable. BB gives you a level 20 Eevee upon arrival in Hearthome City before you even have 3 badges. You can get more at the Trophy Garden, but this one is sooner. One thing I have to cover though is that sadly, Glaceon just doesn't make sense. You don't get to the Icy Rock until right before the 7th badge, where all the other evolution methods for Eevee are near immediate. You can backtrack to Eterna Forest's Mossy Rock, grab the evolution stones in the underground or Solaceon ruins, and nothing is stopping the friendship progression. Personal note here, I've hated location-based evolutions basically the whole time they were a thing, but especially after I got a Charge-a-Bug in Sun and couldn't turn it into a Vikavolt until Vast Ponykenyon, when my team was like level 50. Umbreon, as cool as it is, really is not that great. You'd have to put in a lot of work to get its friendship up quickly enough for it to evolve in time to fight Fantina, so more realistically, you won't evolve it until later. Espeon is not much better, since while you could definitely have it evolve before Maylene, only one of her 3 Pokemon is actually weak to Psychic. Jolteon is good against 2 of Wake's Pokemon and more than half of Cyrus's final team, but that's it. Leafeon is about the same, but as discussed earlier, is better in the league. That leaves Vaporeon and Flareon. As mentioned, I think Vaporeon is a bit better in the league, and with the full game, it's also good against 2 of Byron's Pokemon, Candace's Piloswine, and with ice coverage, 3 of Cyrus's Pokemon. Flareon beats Maylene's Lucario, 2 of Byron's Pokemon, all of Candace's, and Cyrus's Weavile. It's really close, and I feel so bad, but I gotta give it to Vaporeon again. I want Flareon to be good, but it's just, there's a lot going against it. Both of them are slow, but Flareon is not as bulky. And while Vaporeon can get Surf once you get to Celestic Town, Flareon's best fire move will be Fire Fang after that, which isn't even that strong. Tack on Vaporeon's advantage in the league, and Vaporeon is the best once again. Although if you start with Empoleon, I say try Flareon. Now to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and while Glaceon and Leafeon exist, you cannot get them. There is no Moss Rock or Ice Rock in all of Kanto and Johto. Dumb, I know. Additionally, the Evolution Stone situation is similar to Crystal. You can get them early, but it won't be fun, having to wait for a few trainers to call you. They're definitely incentivizing Espeon and Umbreon. While much is the same from the Gen 2 games, one big difference is that the Gift Eevee is now at level 5 instead of 20. This may sound more annoying, requiring more level grinding to catch up to the rest of your team, but I actually think it's better. It means your Eeveelution can get a stab move if it evolves by level 15, instead of 36 like before. Additionally, the friendship evolutions are easier now since you can get the Soothe Bell and can have more level ups, each of which boost friendship. But to be clear, that will still suck. Even with the Soothe Bell, leveling up alone gives you too few friendship points to evolve by level 15. To safely friendship evolve the Eevee in time for its earlier stab move, you pretty much have to give it a daily haircut from the Haircut Brothers for minimum a week. Changing your clock can get around this, but it's so stupid that you have to cheese the game just to get an Eeveelution with an early stab move. They fixed this in later generations where they introduced evolution moves where a Pokemon learns a move as soon as it evolves, and the Eeveelutions all get them, but that's not until Gen 7. But however annoying, it is possible. So it does mean that now Espeon and Umbreon can be used against Morty and are strong against him, although Espeon's obviously risky. And Espeon can now be reasonably used against Chuck too, plus more battles with your rivals and Team Rocket's poison types. Because of this expanded earlier use, I'm saying Espeon moves past Vaporeon for the best Eeveelution in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Plus, it's nice you can use it alongside Feraligatr. Now for Gen 5, Black and White, which famously have no previous Gen Pokemon available before rolling the credits. But Black 2 and White 2 add the Eeveelutions to its regional decks. However, Leafeon and Glaceon get screwed again. The Moss Rock is in Pinwheel Forest, and the Ice Rock is in Twist Mountain, both of which are post-game locations, so sadly Leafeon and Glaceon once again are not options. Ugh, I wish they'd changed these to Stone Evolutions so long ago. I hate location evolutions. May they rest in pain. Eevee can be caught in Castelia Park, accessible through the Castelia sewers at level 18 or 19. There's a gift one too, but that's not until you beat the league. None of the evolution stones are obtainable before fighting Berg, and while you could friendship evolve before that, it's not really worth it considering both Espeon and Umbreon are weak to Bug. So we'll mainly be looking at battles from Elisa onward. Vaporeon, the most successful one up to this point, is not actually that great in these games. The first reliable way to get a Water Stone is on Route 19, but it requires Surf, which you don't get until you defeat Clay, the main gym battle Vaporeon excels in. You can technically get one sooner in the Hidden Grottos, but it's like a 0.25% chance. It's not worth it. Vaporeon's ice coverage can help with Drayden, and it's quite solid against Iris as a whole, but that's really it. Flareon has almost no good matchups since the bug battle is done, and there aren't any major ice or grass specialists. It's really only decent against Colress. Espeon's good against Marshall, but that's it, and Umbreon's good against Chantal and Caitlyn, but that's it. That leaves Jolteon, which is my pick for the best in Black 2 and White 2. It has an advantage over two gym leaders, Skyla and Marlin, and while its level up moveset takes some time to give you a special electric move, you will have Discharge before Skyla. Before that, Volt Absorb can help against Elisa too. Additionally, your rival Hugh always has an Unpheasant, and he has a water type if you did not choose Oshawott. And for many battles, those are 2 of his 3 Pokemon. Jolteon's not really OP in the league, but it's the most helpful before that. Now we move on to X and Y, the final games to introduce a new Eeveelution, Sylveon. But will it be the best? Eevee is found wild in the grass on Route 10, just north of Sillage City, meaning it's pretty early. Unfortunately, again, the Ice and Moss Rocks are not. The Ice Rock is in Frost Cavern, only accessible after 6 badges, and the Moss Rock is within the Winding Woods, south of the final gym town. Infuriating and enraging! They added Leafeon and Glaceon and just crapped all over them from the point they were introduced. Thankfully, the older Eeveelutions are straightforward though, with all the stones being accessible before this point, and while the Soothe Bell must wait until Shalour City, nothing is stopping the friendship progression. Plus, since it's wild, you could catch it with a luxury ball. You can't buy them before this point, but you get 5 in Sycamore's lab. So don't mess up. Sylveon is more annoying, since if you don't do things exactly right via the method shown on screen, you will miss out on a fairy attack for quite some time. However, this doesn't really matter since the best Eeveelution is Flareon. Flareon? Oh my god! Oh my god, it's Flareon! Flareon's fire typing is strong against Ramos, 2 of Clement's Pokemon thanks to Heliolisk's Dry Skin, Valerie's Mawile, and all of Wulfric's Pokemon. All the other Eeveelutions pale in comparison. Then, as an added bonus, it's great against Wickstrom's Steel types in the league. Plus, it gets Flame Charge, Plus, it now gets Flame Charge, oh my god. Plus, it now gets Flame Charge, which can help offset its poor speed, and Flare Blitz, its strongest move, at the reasonable level of 45. Finally, Flareon is good! Celebration! Although, the primary reason Flareon is good is because fire is good in Kalos, just across the board, which means that Delphox and the Mega Charizards are also good. And they're definitely better than Flareon. But if you want to roll Chestnut Blastoise or a Greninja Venusaur, Flareon's right there. Next is Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and while you could not get Eevee in the originals, you can in the remakes, although pretty late. After catching Kyogre or Groudon and getting the National Dex, you can Dex Nav Eevee on Route 116. It is quite rare and only level 8, but hey, it's possible. Getting it so late also means you can reasonably turn it into any Eeveelution because you have access to the whole map at this point. So which Eeveelution is best against the final gym, Wally, and the League? I tallied up every major battle Pokemon each of the Eeveelutions had a favorable matchup against, and while most had several—
sorry, Espeon, you really got screwed by the first 2 Elite Four being Dark and Ghost.
there was one that was a clear winner: Sylveon. Sylveon's fairy typing is huge against Wally's very scary Mega Gallade, and then it goes on to crush both Sydney and Drake. Fairy is especially nice against Drake since the ice moves from Vaporeon or Glaceon don't really work on Kingdra. Additionally, Sylveon gets Shadow Ball as coverage, helping out with Phoebe. It would be odd to go through all of this effort just to use a Pokemon for the last few battles of the game, but hey, if you want to do it, Sylveon's the best one. Now we move to Alola, Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, where Eevee is easily obtainable shortly after arriving on Akala Island, whether in the wild or from a gift egg. Additionally, there's a small chance for a wild Eevee to SOS call in Espeon or Umbreon depending on the time of day, so that's fun. As for the evolution accessibility, it kind of depends on the game. Espeon, Umbreon, and Sylveon are all equal. Nothing is stopping that progression. The Ice Rock is surprise. Late game as hell in Mount Lanakila. It's like they really hate Glaceon. And while the Moss Rock is not as bad, it's not until the Lush Jungle, which is after the water trial. The stones in the Ultra games are easy. Show someone at the nursery your hatched Eevee, and you get to pick one. But in Sun and Moon, the Thunder and Water Stones are after the Fire trial, and the Fire Stone is after the Grass trial. There's Pokepelago stone hunting, but you can't go there until you've beaten the Fire trial. So it's like, it's really weird. In Sun and Moon, they made it so the evolution stones for the Eeveelutions that would be most helpful against that particular trial are not until after that particular trial. Despite the late Water Stone though, Vaporeon still takes the crown here. It misses the Fire trial, but after that it beats Olivia, both as Kahuna and in the League, and Hapu. But if you factor in its ice coverage and Shadow Ball, it's useful against the Lurantis battle, risky, I know, the Totem Kamo-O, Acerola, and Kahili. The other Eeveelutions don't measure up as well due to having more limited coverage. These matchups are a big reason why I've said that Primarina is the best starter for the Alola games. Water and Fairy just match up so well against the major battles, hence making Sylveon the second best Eeveelution. So if you decide to pick Primarina, I'd go with Flareon as the third best option. Its fire typing covers the totem bug type Vikavolt along with Guzma. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, my answer is unchanged. Sylveon was second place, but it gets a bit worse due to Hala in the league being replaced with Steel type Mullane. Vaporeon, now available before the fire trial thanks to the Nursery Waterstone, adds that battle to its usefulness. Additionally, Vaporeon gets Haze by level up, a move that wipes out all stat boosts. This is useful for totem battles because it wipes out the stat boosts that they start the battle with. Now, this was useful in Sun and Moon already, but it's extra good in Ultra Sun and Moon because of Ultra Necrozma, which starts the battle with an Omni boost. Next is Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and we'll start with Eevee. And the best one is the Eevee. The partner Eevee has better stats than a regular Eevee, although not as good as an Eeveelution's. However, it offsets this by learning absolutely broken moves with very silly names. All of them are 90 base power and 100% accurate, but have insane secondary effects. Buzzy Buzz guarantees paralysis, while Sizzly Slide guarantees a burn. Bouncy Bubble heals, Sappy Seed sets up Leech Seed, Batty Bat and Glitzy Glow set up Reflect and Light Screen respectively, and Sparkly Swirl cures your whole party's status conditions. Then there's VV Volley, a fifth move that does not take up a move slot that boosts power with max friendship, ending up at over 100 power. They are ridiculous! Plus, another big thing here is that you have it the whole playthrough. You can't say that for Eevee in any other game. Like, that's huge. You can use it in every single gym battle. As for Let's Go Pikachu, you'd be using Eevee more traditionally, which means it's a close race between Vaporeon and Jolteon like in previous Kanto games. While there are some differences in level up movesets and TM accessibility, the biggest difference in this game is Lance, who went from having multiple Dragonair to none, meaning his team is now more weak to electric than ice. However, despite that, I'm still giving the win to Vaporeon. Beating the last two gyms is huge, plus the big issue with Jolteon is that it overlaps with the partner Pikachu. As I mentioned, I'm trying to ignore starter choice, but you don't have a starter choice in here. You're starting with the Pikachu no matter what, so there is no scenario where you could use Jolteon without ditching your partner Pikachu. Which really, you shouldn't do. It's pretty freaking good. Therefore, Vaporeon makes more sense on more teams, and so I think it is just a bit better than Jolteon in a Gen 7 Kanto vacuum. And now we reach Sword and Shield, another new era for Eeveelutions. Leafeon and Glaceon finally evolve with stones. Stones in your bag, to be clear, not the big rocks, not boulders, little rocks, pebbles. Eevee is found on Route 4 before the first gym, and all 5 of the evolution stones are accessible early, either normally or from the digging duo. You can use a fully evolved Eeveelution for every gym battle in the game. It's awesome. So which one's best? I don't know. I mean, I do. Like, I had to make a decision, but it was really hard. They're so close. All the Eeveelutions have favorable matchups against 2 to 3 major battles, depending on the version, except in Sword, Leafeon has 4. Yay! Yay for Leafeon! Leafeon beats Nessa, which is big since you fight her twice, along with Gordy if you're playing Sword, and half of Raihan's team. It also gets coverage moves Dig and Iron Tail, which all Eeveelutions get now, but Leafeon is a physical attacker, so it can better use them to be helpful against Rose, Opal, and Bead. Plus, Leech Seed is one of the best support moves in the game, and it gets that really early at level 20. However, in Shield, the Rock Gym is an Ice Gym, so instead my advantage goes to Flareon. It beats Milo immediately, then Melanie and Rose, but again with Iron Tail, it's helpful against all the fairy types, even resisting their attacks because it's a fire type. Leafeon in Sword, Flareon in Shield. Although I will say Vaporeon's a close second for both of them, beating Kabu, Gordy in Sword, and it's by far the best Eeveelution for Raihan's gym battle. In Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, the Eeveelution situation is identical to Diamond and Pearl. You cannot get Eevee until you have the National Pokedex, which is technically possible before the league, but it will be awful and not fun for most people. Friendly reminder, well, I guess not that friendly. These remakes are trash because of the amount of platinum improvements that they ignored, among other reasons. Vaporeon is still the winner like it was in Gen 4 because of how well the combination of water and ice does in the league. The only place you'd really be able to use it. Legends Arceus is next, where Eevee is found early and the stones are found in ore deposits or space-time distortions wherever. You can also just catch Eeveelutions straight up in those distortions. As for the best Eeveelution, I feel like the answer doesn't really matter that much. Legends isn't a game where you're participating in major traditional battles. The biggest boss fights are the Pokemon fighting you. But I suppose I can give the win to Vaporeon, since 3 of the 5 noble boss Pokemon are weak to water. Although I should mention, weirdly, the best special water move that Vaporeon gets is Water Pulse. I don't know why they did that. Finally, Scarlet and Violet. Eevee is once again catchable before the first badge, either near Cortando or as a fixed encounter in South Province Area 5. And you can get the stones wherever because, well, it's an open world game. Even if the stone is far, like the ice stone, like being on Glaciato Mountain somewhere, like, just go get it. I believe in you. Additionally, all the Eeveelutions now have better coverage than they've ever had before. Leafeon gets Aerial Ace, Glaceon gets Water Pulse, Espeon gets Power Gem. They all get Trail Blaze. Regardless of which one you pick, all of the Eeveelutions are better set up for success than in any previous game before. Whichever one you use, it's probably gonna be pretty useful to you. So because of this, it's really hard to decide, so I'm gonna put more focus on the earlier battles in the game. This makes it close between Vaporeon and Flareon. Flareon works well for the Bug Gym, Grass Gym, Giacomo's Pawniard, and the Titan Earthworm. Vaporeon matches up well against the Titan Cloth, the Fire Specialist Mila, and the Titan Bombardier if you teach it Icy Wind. As you move on later, Flareon's Fire Stab doesn't help much again until the Ice Gym, then the Steel Elite Four, while Vaporeon's Stab Water is good for the Ground Titan and the Ground Elite Four. But with coverage of Ice moves and Shadow Ball for Vaporeon, then Dig and Trail Blaze for Flareon, their usefulness can really expand. It's really close, but I'm giving the edge to Vaporeon simply because it's easier to use. The instant you evolve Eevee, it learns a special water move, whereas for Flareon to get a physical fire move before level 30, you have to either beat Mila or get the TM for Fire Fang or Flame Charge. By the way, side note here, Flareon could not learn Flame Charge from TM until version 2.0 of the game. Like, it was just a bug. Like, it could learn Flame Charge previously and they removed it. And they fixed it eventually, but like, come on, y'all. Scarlet and Violet, jeez. Vaporeon needs the Icy Wind TM to help against the Titan Bombardier, but you just have to beat Giacomo for the recipe, and he's right down the road. Like I said, I think all of them can be useful, but Vaporeon's just been a consistently strong Pokemon the whole time. This also means that Glaceon and Umbreon never got a win, but Pokemon clearly hates Glaceon, and Umbreon's just like, Dark's only good against Ghost and Psychic. It's just like not that much coverage. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video about the earliest legendary Pokemon in every game. Some of them are actually like immediate. You can play through the whole game with a legendary if you have the right equipment.